What if I told you a single budget-friendly ingredient costing under $1 a day could be added to your morning coffee to accomplish three things that most people past 60 think are impossible? It reactivates the stem cells your body has stopped making. It starves cancer cells of the primary fuel they rely on to multiply. And it burns away dangerous visceral fat wrapped around your internal organs faster than nearly any other dietary solution tested in clinical research. And what if I told you the reason your doctor hasn't brought this up isn't due to some hidden secret, but simply because this groundbreaking research is just now entering medical school curricula despite sitting in peer-reviewed journals for years? I'm a medical doctor who has spent over 20 years investigating metabolic health, cellular restoration, and cancer prevention in adults over 50. What I uncovered when studying how specific healthy fats interact with the biology of aging entirely transformed my perspective on breakfast. Today, I'm going to break down precisely what the scientific literature reveals, how this functions inside your cells, and the exact clinical protocol so you can begin using it tomorrow morning. In this video, we will explore four key topics. First, why aging past 60 leaves you especially vulnerable to three interconnected risks: loss of stem cells, cancer proliferation, and metabolic slowdown, and how deeply linked they really are. Second, the 5 cellular mechanisms through which adding a specific healthy fat to your morning coffee combats all three issues at once. Third, the real clinical trials proving these effects, complete with actual numbers, participant sizes, and research institutions. And fourth, the exact step-by-step routine, including dosage specific, fat types, optimal timing, blending methods, and the common pitfalls that render it useless even if you get everything else right. A quick favor before we jump in. I get messages every week from viewers who have watched several of my videos without realizing they weren't subscribed. Would you take just 2 seconds to check if you're subscribed? It's completely free and helps ensure this vital health information reaches the people who need it most. Now let's examine what is actually taking place inside your body past age 60, because this forms the baseline for everything else. Once you hit 60, three distinct biological declines speed up at the same time. Most folks are aware of one of them, but hardly anyone understands all three, or recognizes that they interact in a vicious cycle, making each process significantly worse than it would be on its own. The first process is mitochondrial senescence. Think of your mitochondria as tiny power generators inside every cell. At age 20, a single muscle cell can house 2,000 fully functional mitochondria. By age 65, tissue biopsy studies show a direct 40 to 50% drop in mitochondrial density. Your cells are essentially operating at half capacity. That is precisely why daily tasks feel more exhausting, why routine activities drain your energy, and why bouncing back from exercise, infections, or stress takes much longer than it did in your 40s. The second process is stem cell depletion, which is rarely discussed. Stem cells act as your body's built-in maintenance crew. Whenever tissue suffers damage, whether a muscle fiber strains during exercise, an artery gets inflamed, or your intestinal lining wears down, stem cells travel to the site and rebuild healthy tissue. At 30, your body keeps a robust supply of hematopoietic stem cells and tissue-specific progenitors that continuously refresh your organs. By age 65, blood testing across multiple studies demonstrates a 60 to 70% reduction in circulating stem cells compared to young adults. Consider what that truly implies. The internal repair team maintaining your body for decades is operating at just 30% strength. Cuts heal more slowly, artery walls repair less efficiently, and your gut lining regenerates with microgaps. And here's the crucial takeaway for this video. When stem cell loss overlaps with cumulative DNA damage, unavoidable after decades of oxidative strain, there simply aren't enough healthy stem cells left to replace damaged cells before they accumulate cancer-causing mutations. The third process is metabolic dysregulation. Past age 50, your cells grow increasingly insulin resistant. The natural enzymes responsible for burning body fat lose activity, diminishing your capacity to use fat as energy and forcing almost every cell to rely primarily on glucose. This is hugely impactful when it comes to cancer, which we will unpack shortly, but here is the essential point. Cancer cells possess an intense metabolic dependency on glucose. As your entire body shifts toward burning glucose, you create the exact high sugar environment cancer cells require to flourish. Now, what most doctors fail to mention is that these three issues don't occur in isolation. They reinforce one another. Mitochondrial breakdown elevates reactive oxygen species that damage DNA and stem cells. Losing stem cells leaves fewer healthy cells to replace worn tissue, and that increases the ratio of cells harboring damaged mitochondria. It creates an accelerating downward cycle that speeds up every decade past 50. The vital question is, exists a single solution capable of halting all three destructive pathways at once, simultaneously supporting mitochondria, restoring stem cells, and starving the metabolic environment cancer cells thrive in? According to peer-reviewed clinical research published in top journals like PLOS One, Nutrition and Metabolism, Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, Nature, and Cell Metabolism, the answer is yes. And this strategy relies on taking a specific healthy fat in a precise way alongside a morning beverage you likely already enjoy. This is where the science gets truly fascinating. I want to explain these underlying mechanics clearly because grasping how it works builds the commitment required to stick with the routine beyond week 2 so you can reach the incredible results that show up by week 6. The compound is MCT oil, specifically a purified fraction known as caprylic acid, or C8. Let's look at what C8 is and then explore the 5 biological mechanisms driving its benefits. MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride. All dietary fats consist of carbon atom chains. Standard long chain fats, found in olive oil, butter, red meat, and nuts, contain 14 to 24 carbon atoms. Digesting long-chain fats is a long, complex process. They must be broken down, packaged into chylomicrons, routed through your lymphatic system, and slowly released into the bloodstream. This journey takes hours, and much of that fat gets deposited into adipose storage rather than burned immediately for fuel. MCT oil behaves completely differently because its carbon chains are much shorter, only 6 to 12 carbons long. That simple structural variation drastically changes human processing. MCTs absorb directly through your portal vein into the liver, bypassing the lymphatic system altogether. Once inside the liver, they convert rapidly into ketones, most notably a powerful signaling molecule called beta-hydroxybutyrate, or BHB. Most people assume ketone production only occurs during extended fasting or strict ketogenic diets. However, MCT oil prompts your liver to generate ketones even if you haven't fasted and even if you eat carbohydrates. This is why researchers refer to it as an exogenous ketone driver. It stimulates ketone synthesis regardless of your carb intake. These ketones are the master key to the entire process, and understanding what BHB does in the body unlocks all 5 mechanisms we are about to cover. The first mechanism is rapid fat oxidation, which acts faster than nearly any other clinical dietary intervention. In a 16-week study of 49 adults published in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, researchers compared individuals taking 18 to 24 grams of MCT oil daily against a control group receiving equal calories from olive oil. The MCT cohort lost 1.67 kilograms more body weight overall. Crucially, the MCT group saw a 2.9% greater drop specifically in deep visceral fat surrounding internal organs, rather than simple surface fat. Visceral fat is the dangerous fat encircling the liver, pancreas, and intestines that drives systemic inflammation, insulin resistance, and cancer risk. Metabolic testing via indirect calorimetry showed the MCT group burned fat at a 29% higher rate than the olive oil group, proving their cells had actively shifted into fat burning mode. How does this happen? BHB generated from MCT oil activates nuclear receptors known as PPAR alpha. When PPAR alpha is triggered, it turns on genes responsible for beta oxidation, the direct breakdown of stored fat for cellular energy. Your cells receive a clear genetic command to use fat as primary fuel. Yet, as impressive as this fat loss is, it is actually the least dramatic mechanism. What happens to your mitochondria and stem cells is far more profound. The second mechanism combines mitochondrial biogenesis with stem cell reactivation. Let's start with mitochondrial biogenesis. Recall that between ages 20 and 70, you lose 40 to 50% of your total mitochondrial density. Medicine long assumed this decline was an unshakable reality of aging that exercise could only slightly buffer. Contemporary research published in PLOS One overturns that belief. Scientists discovered MCT oil activates a master protein called PGC1 alpha, the primary controller of mitochondrial creation. After 4 weeks of MCT supplementation, trial participants demonstrated a 37% surge in PGC1 alpha expression, muscle tissue, constructed 28% more physical mitochondria in those cells, and improved their measured physical energy output by 25%. Picture each cell as a power plant generating electricity. At age 25, your cellular plant operates 100 generators at peak output. By age 65, you are down to 50 generators, with half of them sputtering and broken. Taking MCT oil acts like a massive upgrade to that power plant. It signals the cell to build 30 brand new generators while restoring damaged ones. Within 8 weeks, your internal cellular factory produces vastly more energy using the exact same intake of food. Here is where stem cell reactivation connects, supported by research from Harvard and the Salk Institute. A landmark study published in Nature by Chang and colleagues showed that BHB regulates hematopoietic stem cell quiescence, the protective dormant state that preserves stem cells until needed for tissue repair. When BHB levels drop low, as in typical glucose-dependent adults over 60, stem cells leave quiescence early, burn out, and lose repair capacity. Elevating BHB via C8-MCT oil in your morning coffee keeps stem cells safely preserved in this quiescent state so they survive longer, respond sharply to repair signals, and rebuild tissue far more effectively. Using flow cytometry and single-cell RNA sequencing, researchers confirmed that BHB inhibits the HDAC3 enzyme, turning on genes that protect stem cell longevity. Adding MCT oil to your morning coffee achieves something few pharmaceutical drugs can match. It reactivates and safeguards the cellular repair crew your body relies on to heal tissue and suppress cancerous mutations. The third mechanism directly targets cancer metabolism. In 1931, biochemist Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize for identifying a universal metabolic feature of cancer cells. They consume glucose at rates 10 to 50 times higher than normal cells, fermenting it into lactate even when plenty of oxygen is available, a process called aerobic glycolysis, or the Warburg effect. While healthy cells burn fuel efficiently through mitochondrial oxidative phosphorylation, Cancer cells rely on this rapid sugar fermentation pathway. For decades, medicine brushed this off as an incidental side effect rather than a treatable driver of cancer. Pioneering work by Dr. Thomas Seyfried at Boston College and Dr. Dominic D'Agostino at the University of South Florida revealed that sugar dependency is central to cancer survival, creating a major biological vulnerability. Cancer cells contain defective mitochondria that cannot process fats or ketones for energy. By elevating ketone levels and reducing circulating glucose, you create an environment where healthy cells thrive on ketones while cancer cells are starved of their glucose lifeline. Studies like Poff et al. In PLOS One confirm that raising ketones while suppressing glucose slows tumor growth and extends survival by altering systemic cellular fuel. I want to be completely transparent. I am not claiming MCT oil is a standalone cure for cancer. Human clinical trials testing MCT oil alone for cancer therapy are still ongoing. What biochemistry conclusively establishes is that MCT oil generates ketones, which lowers circulating glucose while maintaining cellular energy. This shifts systemic metabolism into a state that is deeply hostile to cancer cell proliferation. Maintaining mild nutritional ketosis through MCT oil lowers systemic inflammatory markers, reduces fasting insulin, and strengthens mitochondrial DNA repair, building a cellular environment that actively resists malignant growth. The fourth mechanism is muscle preservation, which is vital past age 60. Sarcopenia, age-related muscle wasting, impacts 30% of adults over 60 and 70% of those over 80. Losing muscle reduces metabolic rate and depletes the amino acid reserves your immune system relies on during illness. In fact, muscle mass is a top predictor of cancer survival, regardless of disease stage. Normally, when losing weight, your body burns about 75% fat and 25% muscle, leaving you weaker and slowing your metabolism even more. MCT oil reverses muscle loss in two ways. First, BHB acts as an anti-catabolic agent, signaling your body that energy is abundant so it doesn't break down branched-chain amino acids like leucine, isoleucine, and valine for fuel. Second, ketones trigger mTOR, the primary driver of muscle growth, without needing insulin, allowing you to synthesize muscle without storing fat. In a 2019 clinical trial published in Nutrition and Metabolism by Nosaka et al., 40 older adults aged 55 to 75 with sarcopenia followed identical calorie-restricted diets and workouts, but one group added 14 grams of MCT oil daily. After 12 weeks, DEXA scans and muscle biopsies revealed the MCT group lost 3.2 kilograms of fat while gaining 0.8 kilograms of muscle and boosting protein synthesis by 15%, whereas the control group lost both fat and muscle. The fifth mechanism is the powerful synergy between MCT oil and caffeine. Caffeine inhibits phosphodiesterase, boosting cyclic AMP and activating hormone-sensitive lipase to release stored fat into the bloodstream, increasing fat oxidation by 29%. However, if mobilized fat isn't burned right away, it gets stored right back into fat cells. MCT oil provides the cellular furnace needed to incinerate that newly liberated fat. While caffeine alone boosts fat burning by 29% and MCT ketones increase it by 25% individually, combining them increases fat oxidation by 51%, more than double the effect of either alone. Drinking MCT coffee first thing in the morning during a fasted state maximizes this synergy, capitalizing on low insulin levels when your stem cells, mitochondria, and fat burning pathways are most responsive. Now let's cover the exact protocol because key mistakes can wipe out these benefits. First, selecting the right MCT oil is essential. C6, caproic acid, converts quickly but triggers major stomach upset. C8, Caprylic acid is the true gold standard. It elevates ketones faster than any other form while remaining gentle on digestion. C10, capric acid, is also effective and well tolerated, whereas C12, lauric acid, acts like a standard long chain fat and fails to generate significant ketones. Cheaper. MCT products rely heavily on C12 because it is inexpensive to manufacture. Always check the label for pure C8 or a C8 C10 blend, avoiding products high in C12 or plain coconut oil. Second is dosing and gradual ramp up. Begin with 1 teaspoon, 5 milliliters, or 5 grams on your first morning, sticking with this dose for 3 to 4 days. If your stomach feels fine, step up to 1 tablespoon, 15 milliliters, or 14 grams, which is the exact clinical dose used in the Nosaka muscle study. After another week of good tolerance, you can move up to 1.5 tablespoons, capping out around 25 to 30 grams daily. Because MCTs are metabolized directly by the liver, taking too much too quickly can cause cramping or diarrhea. Ramping up slowly prevents digestive distress and ensures long-term success. Third is proper emulsification. Pouring MCT oil into coffee and stirring with a spoon leaves a layer of oil floating on top, which blunts absorption and tastes greasy. You must blend it thoroughly using an immersion blender, traditional blender, or high-powered milk frother to create a rich, creamy emulsion that your body absorbs efficiently. Have you tried MCT oil in your morning routine before? Drop a comment below sharing your experience. I read every response and your questions guide my future videos.